أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulih al-Kareem. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay. Today, inshallah, I need to leave, generally from now on, I need to try and leave straight after Isha, inshallah, because Isha is getting late as well. So by the time I get back, it gets very late. So, inshallah, I will, if there are any questions or anything, we'll try and take them in the time between the adhan and iqama. And then straight after salah, inshallah, I will leave. So last time, if you remember, does anybody remember what we talked about? Yes, very good. So we talked a little bit about Khadija radiallahu anha, and then we talked about the different ways that the revelation came. And there was some confusion. So it is actually six ways that it would come down. As for the Hadith Qudsi, I think that would come down through Jibreel alayhi salam, but it would not be part of the Quran. It would be something directly that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say, which is not Quran, but it would be recorded separately. Okay. So quickly, can I just take one type of method in which the revelation came down from each person? So starting with Fatima, who looks really scared and shocked. Miskina. Were you there last time? You were there? Any way that you can remember, how would the revelation come down to the Prophet ﷺ? Very good. So one is that it would come down through Angel Jibreel. It was always coming down through Angel Jibreel, but what is the way it would come down?
The first time it came down when he was in the cave,
Mm-hmm.
and he told him to read the Quran.
So how did the Prophet ﷺ see Angel Jibreel? In what form did he see him?
A man.
Okay, very good. So sometimes the revelation would come down through Angel Jibreel in the form, and he would take the form of a man. Okay, so that's one way. Numa.
The bell ring.
Very good, yes. So sometimes he would hear the sound of a ringing bell, and that was very heavy and difficult on him. And if you remember, what did we give the explanation of that? Yes, that's the movement of the wings of the angels out of awe and out of, feeling, the greatness of Allah's words. They would start moving their wings. Maryam?
The question is how
Yes.
in dreams.
Yes, very good. So one of the forms was dreams, and this was the absolute first form in which the revelation started coming, where he would see dreams. And actually, I think it's so nice to sit on the floor. Yeah. G. Oh, translator. Okay. So maybe one of you can give a summary or a gist. You can translate, yeah? So maybe every 10 minutes I'll stop. So you can just give yes, I am Pakistani. But my Urdu is terrible. So I wouldn't even try to translate. Okay, so yes, so the first form is like Maryam mentioned, it would come in he would have these dreams. And every time he would have a dream, the next day it would come true. And this is something that is if we have such a dream once in 6 years, we think, oh my God, this is really strange, I had this dream and then I woke up and it actually happened. Imagine having it every single day for months at a stretch. So he knew that there's something is not right. Alia? Yeah. Okay. So far we've said Angel Jibreel would come in the form of a man. It would come in the form of the sound of a bell. It came in the form of dreams, true dreams.
Through Angel Jibreel when he would be in the form of angel.
Yes, so this only happened on 2 occasions where he saw Angel Jibreel in his true form, and Angel Jibreel came to give the revelation, but in his true form, which was magnificent. How many wings did he have? 600 wings, yes, and they expanded across the whole horizon. He said everywhere he would look, he would just see Angel Jibreel. Sorry, I don't know everybody's names. Aisha. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth. Yes. Yes. So he would just directly, he would get the revelation without, having any interaction with the angel. And the last form? Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would speak directly to him. And that is, for example, like he would speak to Musa alayhi salam. And what is one of the main things he received through that revelation? The command of salah. Okay, very good.
I cheated, I saw.
You're excused. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Now. Now the first thing that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, the first time that he saw Angel Jibreel in the cave, is Angel Jibreel said to him, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. First 5 verses ever revealed. Okay. So the first thing he's told is to read, or in his case to recite, because he cannot read. And we explained briefly about, that we are a literary ummah, and one of the cornerstones of our ummah is that we learn, we attain knowledge, we strive to seek knowledge, okay, and we are like, you could say, like a scholarly ummah. There should be scholars amongst us, and we gave examples of some of the greatest scholars, some of the stars of this ummah, mashallah. And we said that if you were to compare the scholars of this ummah with any other race of people or religion of people, you cannot match the scholarly expertise of the people from this ummah. So right now, with this first revelation, he goes back to Khadija radiallahu anha, and she consoles him. And then they go to Waraqa, and then they understand what a Nabi or a Rasul is. Because remember, we said when he came out of the cave, the angel was saying to him, Ya Muhammad, anta Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad, anta Rasulullah. Now these are things that they are really confused about. And then they understand, that he is a messenger of Allah. So the first person, and we said, remember that this was a huge blessing and favor, and one of the best things that could have happened to Khadija radiallahu anha is that she married the Prophet ﷺ. Because by default, she becomes the first believer and the first Muslim in the whole world. So right now the message is quiet and it is limited. He is not asked to tell anybody about it. He's just found out, and he just tells his immediate family. Those are the only people he propagates the religion to. So we have Khadija radiallahu anha, who is the first person to believe, and then we have a few other people. But before we go on to them, I just want to talk a little bit more about Khadija radiallahu anha. And I just want you to understand, especially since we are women, I think it's a very important message for us to take away and try and understand why was she one of the best women, created by Allah, and she's amongst one of the 4 of the best women. And so we'll just briefly look at sort of all 4 of them together in a general sense. So I want to see why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that Maryam and Khadija and Fatima and Asiya are the 4 of the best women of this ummah. Like Allah says in the Quran. Just thinking of the beginning of the verse. Is it إن الله اصطفاك وطهرك واصطفاك على نساء العالمين. Right? Allah is saying that about Maryam alayhi salam, that Allah has chosen you above all the women. So from these 4, the top person is Maryam alayhi salam, and then is Khadija radiallahu anha, and then Fatima, and then Asiya. And obviously, the other reason it's interesting to look at this is also because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose her to be married to the Prophet ﷺ and to receive the honor of being the first to believe in the message of Islam. Because this is all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's choice. Yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody, and it was Khadija radiallahu anha. So we see two common factors in all these four women. The first thing we see is solid iman. Iman of a quality that is really difficult to comprehend and understand. So when I say solid iman, I mean they have yaqeen. And when I say yaqeen is a level where you have stronger faith in your belief, because your belief is something unseen, right? It's not something you can touch or see or feel. A belief is something which is ghaib, or it is like unseen. Your faith or your belief in that iman is stronger than in something that you see or you hear or you touch or you feel. That's how strong your belief is in your iman. So your yaqeen is so strong that it's even stronger than if you were to see something. Like, I can see this book, but if I say that I have yaqeen in my iman, then that is stronger than even something that I can see or touch. Because when you see something, you know that it's there. But if your belief is even stronger than that, then you can imagine what level it's at. Okay? I don't know if I've been able to explain that to you clearly, but it's not an easy concept to understand. They had a very solid spiritual heart. Okay? And their belief in Allah reached the level of yaqeen, where nothing can bring doubt to the heart. Nothing can shake that. It's like an unshakable belief. Okay? Sometimes we go through some difficulty, and na'udhu billah, sometimes we question and we say, does Allah really exist? Why am I going through so much difficulty? Or you ask yourself, that why is Allah doing this to me? Or sometimes we might be in a really, really low spot in our life, and we will ask something like that. So that means something has shaken our iman, right? Otherwise, we would never question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are we to question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah put us here. He gave us everything that we have, and He will take it whenever He wants. It all belongs to Him. We don't have any right to question any of Allah's decisions. But sometimes when we're going through a really, really low period, or going through a really difficult test or a hard time, sometimes, we might utter, or not even utter, feel something like that in our heart and think, why is Allah doing this to me? Such and such disobeys Allah and nothing happens to them. They have all the comforts of life and they disobey Allah day and night. And, here I am struggling, striving, making an effort. And still, I am going through this difficulty. So it's almost like you're questioning Allah and you're saying that what you're doing, Allah is wrong. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. But so that means that your iman has been shaken, right? So when you have yaqeen, nothing can shake that iman. No matter what happens, you will still be on that high. Do you understand? Yeah, the conviction now. Yeah, okay. So, does anybody want to translate? How are you going to translate that? Do you want to explain to her? Okay. Okay. So let's take the example of the wife of Fir'aun, Asiya radiallahu anha. She was blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by everything that any woman would want. She lives in a palace. She's married to the most powerful man in the kingdom. He's the king, he's the Rais, he's the Mudir, he's the whatever you want to call him, right? He's even calling himself God. She has all the creature comforts. She has servants, she has good food, she has good clothes, she has wealth. I mean, what else would a woman want? Just to be happy, right? This is what we think, unfortunately, that this is where happiness comes from. But what does she say? وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. She says, no, Allah, I don't want this. She says, exchange it, swap it for me, take it away from me, and give me a house in Jannah near you. That's what I want. I don't want any of this. This does not mean anything to her. It has no value in front of her. And this is the voice of Iman. This is the voice of solid Iman. Because if you don't have Iman, it's very easy to get drawn into these things of the dunya. It's very easy to become fooled by the glitter of this dunya. Unless you have solid Iman and you know where the real success and the real happiness is. So she says, and Allah, the verse says, and Allah presents an example of those who believed, the wife of Pharaoh, when she said, my Lord, build for me near you a house in paradise, and save me from Pharaoh and his deeds, and save me from the wrongdoing people. So this is what she wants. And like I said, it's easy for us to just listen to it as a story and think, oh yeah, I would also do that. But put yourself in that position, because she went through a very hard time when she made this bargain, right? All her comforts were taken away, and she was tortured until that big rock was thrown on her and it was about to hit her, and she starts smiling, because that's when she sees her abode. So she gave all this up for a lot of difficulty and test and trial, but she knew where the real happiness and the real success is. So she had her heart and her Iman in the right place. And that is something that we struggle throughout our life to do, to try and rectify our heart and attach our heart to the right thing, so that we can get eventual success, inshallah. And once you can do that, once you can get to that point where this dunya really doesn't matter to you, then you've succeeded. You've done it. You've got it. Then you've got the purpose of this existence. That is where you're supposed to go. And keep in mind that Asiya is living in a very corrupt environment. It's not like everyone around her is praying tahajjud and obeying Allah and reciting Quran, and she's the only one who is, stuck with Pharaoh. The environment she's in is completely corrupt and evil. Everybody around her is involved in wrongdoing. That's why she's saying that وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, because the entire people, Fir'aun is bad anyway. His actions are bad, but the people around her, they're also all, doing that. So to go against the tide, it's a good example for us to see today. If you see you have a certain environment in your home, and the minute you step out of the house, it's like, the entire world is against you. Everybody is going in the opposite direction to you, and you think, how am I going to even overcome this? But that's the whole point. That if your Iman is strong enough, it will ride the waves and it will come out successful. It won't drown. So that's the thing, that you hold on to it firmly and you go against the tide if you have to, because you know that what is at the other end is the real success and not this. So don't let the dunya fool you, and go against. Don't think that because everybody's doing this must be right and I must be wrong. Just because everyone is doing it does not make it right. I know it makes it more challenging and more difficult, but then that's what has always happened. Even when the Prophet ﷺ, starts preaching, it's very few people who believe in him. The majority of people are against him. So that's the first thing, that all these women, they shared solid conviction in their faith. unshakable faith. Nothing, no test, no calamity, no difficulty could make them lose faith or question their faith. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what do you think gives Khadija radiallahu anha this special place in the Prophet ﷺ's life? From what you know about her so far. Of course, you don't know everything about her, but whatever we have talked about so far, what do you think it is?
She's mature
Okay.
in her thoughts and her behavior.
Mm-hmm.
She supported him even though she's supposed to be the supporter.
So that's a very good point. It's her role as his wife. Because remember, she's not just his wife. She's also, almost you could say, the breadwinner of the family. She's the businesswoman. She's also from a noble family. So she has nobility, lineage, wealth, status, and, perhaps she's good looking. But she's not remembered for those things. Today when we remember her, we don't say, we remember her because she was the most beautiful woman, or we remember her because she was a very successful businesswoman. Those are not the reasons, right? So the common thing that all these four women share is that two of them raised two of the greatest anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are these two women? Maryam alayhi salam and Asya. One raises Musa alayhi salam and one raises Isa alayhi salam. From the Ulul Azm. These are two of the greatest prophets, anbiya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So two of them were excellent mothers, and the other two, they're excellent wives. Yes, they're excellent wives. Both of them. Khadija radiallahu anha, her role as a wife, and Fatima radiallahu anha. Fatima radiallahu anha was an exceptional wife. She went through a lot of struggle in trying to keep her household together and to keep it running. This is why she went to the Prophet ﷺ. When Ali radiallahu anhu heard that some slaves have arrived, he went to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was not at home at that time. So Aisha radiallahu anha was there, and he said to her that we want to speak to the Prophet ﷺ about a servant for Fatima, because she's really struggling and she's going through a very hard time in her house. And so they go back to their house, and when the Prophet ﷺ returns, Aisha radiallahu anha tells him that the Prophet that Ali and Fatima came radiallahu anhuma to ask for a servant. So he goes back to their house, and when he goes to their house, they said they had already laid down in bed. They were ready to go to sleep. And when he came, they both got out of their, they stood up. And he said to them, stay where you are. And then he came and he sat down between them so that he was touching both of them. So he sat very close to both of them. And he said to Aisha to Fatima radiallahu anha, he said, I have something better for you than a servant. Before you go to bed, say Subhanallah 33 times, Alhamdulillah 33 times, and Allahu Akbar 33 times. That is better for you than a servant. This is one of the best of the women. This is one of the most beloved of the Prophet ﷺ's children. She is the only surviving child of the Prophet ﷺ. By this time, very soon you will see that all his children pass away before him. She's the only surviving child. He loved her so much. He said, Fatima is a part of me. If something upsets her, it upsets me. And if something makes her happy, it makes me happy. So to someone who is so beloved to him, who is so close to his heart, this is the advice he gives her. And Ali radiallahu anhu said, Fatima was working so hard, she was using the stone mill until her hands became harsh and rough. She was drawing water out of the well until it left marks on her neck. She would clean the house until her clothes became dirty, and she would cook until it affected her face. Because remember, they did not have the comforts that we have today. their cooking was, with hot coals and or wood that they would burn, and the heat of this goes far beyond just the pot that you're cooking on. So when you stand over it, it will cause the heat to affect you and your face, and your clothes and everything. And this is the difficulty she's going through, and still the Prophet ﷺ advises her with something that he knows is more beneficial for her. So, in this kind of like consumerist, commercialized world, we as women, we need to understand where the real ajr is, where the real reward for us as women is. Don't forget, if you are doing any other role in your life, don't neglect this main role that Allah has, put you in, which is the role of a wife or the role of a mother. And if you have neither of the two, because we know that there are people who don't get married, we know people who get married but they don't have children, or people who never get married or have children, they still have a role to fulfill. But in general, I'm just saying that it's important for us as women to remember where the real ajr is. So she is not getting the status because she did well in her business, or because of her lineage, or because of any of these other points we mentioned, which are all true about her. But her ajr is from the way she behaves with her husband, from her character with her husband, and her basically her life within the marriage that she has with the Prophet ﷺ. And that is what makes her so special and so dear to everyone's heart, including his. So even after she's dead, he constantly remembers her with so much love and so much fondness. When one of his daughters, who's married to somebody who has not become Muslim, Zainab, one of his daughters, Zainab, she's married to one of the people who have not become Muslim yet. And what happens is that there's they capture some prisoners, and they need to ransom the prisoners. Those who want the prisoners back, they have to give some ransom. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he receives this pouch, and he opens it, and he holds it, and he has tears flowing down his face. And all the Sahaba, they're like confused, they don't know what's happened. Why is he crying like that? And then he says to them, this is the necklace of Khadija, and she gave it to Zainab when she got married. It's one of Khadija's necklaces that she gave, and Khadija has obviously passed away by now. And he realizes that Zainab has given this necklace to ransom her husband, and so he gives the Sahaba the choice, and he says that if you want, we will ransom him with this, and if you want, we will not accept the ransom, and we will just release him, because this means so much to him. Anything to do with Khadija radiallahu anha. I mean, we need to ask ourselves, what is our legacy as a wife or as a mother? What is our husband going to remember after we're gone? Is he going to remember that, oh, alhamdulillah, the never-ending to-do list is finished now with her? Or is he going to remember all the nagging and the shouting? Or is he going to remember, that he kept getting told off for leaving his clothes here or leaving his socks there? We need to ask ourselves, how much of a support are we to our husbands? Or our children, what kind of children are we bringing up? What will our children remember about us? Are they going to remember that, the Dracula, the dragon in the house is gone? We really need to think, that are we fulfilling our role the way we are meant to be? And, we need to remember that these are the two main things that made these women so great. Their yaqeen, their unshakable faith. No matter how low and how down they were, they never questioned or stopped believing in Allah or asked why. Even this asking why, this is very bad. This is very disrespectful. And the second thing is, fulfilling their role with ihsan, completely, entirely, and beautifully. Okay, so this was just a side thing that I wanted to mention. So, when the first revelation comes, it's the immediate household of the Prophet ﷺ that is given dawah, because the dawah is not public yet. It is still quiet and private. So the first person to believe is Khadija radiallahu anha. She surpasses the men and the women together. The second person, we would say, is who is the first slave who believed? Zayd bin Haritha, because he was part of the household of the Prophet ﷺ. Remember, he was considered to be his adopted son. And then the third person, who is also part of the Prophet ﷺ's household, is a child, and that is Ali radiallahu anhu. And then the fourth person is the first man to have become Muslim, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, yes. And that's why he's known as As-Siddiq. Because when everyone denied the message, everyone, they say, thought before they accepted Islam, except Abu Bakr. As soon as he heard the message of Islam, he accepted it. He was the one who repeatedly believed the Prophet ﷺ every time anything happened. The Mi'raj happens, Abu Bakr believes him. He tells him about Islam, he accepts it. He says, I need a companion to accompany me in the hijrah. Abu Bakr is there again. So he's always there, and he would immediately, without hesitation, he would accept and agree. And all his wealth, I mean, the benefit that Abu Bakr brings to Islam is much greater than any of the other people initially who became Muslim, because Abu Bakr had wealth which he gave all for the sake of Islam and for the sake of the cause of the deen. His own efforts, whatever he could do, however he could help, his nobility, everything, was put for the service of Islam. So a lot of his Islam was more beneficial than a lot of other people right in the beginning. There is some dispute, you would have heard maybe, where they say that who was the first free man to believe in Islam? Was it Ali or Abu Bakr? And so Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he reconciles this matter, and he says that Ali, because Ali had not reached puberty, that's why he's considered to be a boy or a child. He was still very, very young. And you know that Abu Talib raised the Prophet ﷺ. So Ali was one of the sons of Abu Talib. And it's, they had a lot of children and not enough, resources. So sometimes children would be brought up in somebody else's house. And so Ali was raised and brought up in the household of the Prophet ﷺ, almost like his child. So Ibn Hajar says that Ali was not a mushrik to start with. Number one, he had not reached puberty. Number two, he never did idol worship or any of these things, because he's growing up in the household of the man who is completely opposed to this. So he has not had a chance to do anything other than just worship Allah. So they're saying that he did not really convert. He was never mushrik to start with. And so the first man to be Muslim is Abu Bakr. Okay. So, and, the Prophet ﷺ, he was very, very loyal to these first core group of Muslims. And so it is said, there's one story where Abu Darda narrates that Ali ibn Abi Talib said, I would see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam enter with Abu Bakr and Umar, and he would leave with Abu Bakr and Umar. He would sit with Abu Bakr and Umar, and whenever we would see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we would see Abu Bakr on one side and Umar on one side. A lot of the times you will read narrations where Abu Bakr and Umar with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these were like his two advisors, you could say, and very close associates of his. But still, the Prophet ﷺ had a stronger attachment to Abu Bakr. Even though he's close to Umar and Uthman and Ali, but his attachment to Abu Bakr is different. And again, because he is a Siddiq, he believed in him without questioning, he was always ready to accept whatever he had to say, and that's why he said, if we did not have the brotherhood of Islam, then he said, I would have taken Abu Bakr as my my friend. And this is such a great honor for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is meant to be the second best of creation after the Prophet ﷺ and the Anbiya. He is second in line, mashallah. He has a very, very high status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you can see after the Prophet, the Nabi of Allah is gone, he's next in line. Yes. So once there was a dispute between Abu Bakr and Umar. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah sent me to you, and all of you said you lie except Abu Bakr, who said you spoke the truth. And he dedicated himself and his fortune to me. Will you then leave this friend of mine to me? Will you then leave this friend of mine to me? Will you then leave this friend of mine to me? So when they had a dispute, he just has this unwavering loyalty to Abu Bakr, and he just says, just leave Abu Bakr alone. He doesn't even want to know what's happened in the dispute. But this is how strongly he felt about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And it's a huge honor for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, for him to have this special place in the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So the first thing that the Prophet ﷺ is told, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, and warn your closest kindred. So this is the first instruction he gets, is warn your people who are the closest to you. And when this is revealed, now remember, a lot of the people who we hear are enemies of Islam, they are actually relatives of the Prophet ﷺ. For example, Abu Lahab, who is he? He's his uncle. He is his aqrabin, right? And a lot of the other people amongst the Quraysh who are in Makkah, some of them are his cousins, his aunts, his uncles. So when this verse is revealed, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, the Prophet ﷺ, he climbs onto Mount Safa. And he stands on top of Safa and he says, Wa Subaha, Wa Subaha. Now this was a call that they would make when it's like an emergency. Okay, it's like, for example, in some countries, you have a siren that goes off when there's an emergency, so you know that something's happened. So obviously in those days there's no technology and speakers and things like that. So they would have a caller who would stand up and call out to warn people about something. So it's almost like it's like a warning signal. So when you hear this phrase, you're supposed to come and to the place where this caller is calling out to see what has happened, right? Yes. So everyone, who hears the Prophet ﷺ, they come and they gather, and some of the people who can't come, who can't leave what they're doing, or they're in a situation where they can't come, they send somebody on their behalf to find out what has happened. So when everybody has gathered, the Prophet ﷺ asks them, he says, if I tell you that there is an army behind this mountain that is about to ambush you, would you believe me? Because he's standing on top of a mountain, right? So he says, if I tell you there's an army behind this mountain that's about to ambush you, would you believe me? They say, we have never heard you lie. Why wouldn't they believe him, right? They said, of course we will believe you. So the Prophet ﷺ says, I am here to warn you of a severe punishment that will befall you if you don't believe. These were the first words that the Prophet ﷺ chose to tell the Quraysh. This was the first few words that he chose to, the way he gave his message to the Quraysh, that if you don't believe me, a punishment will befall you. And if you think about it, there is, these are not padded words. He hasn't softened the blow, like we say, there's no flowery language, there's nothing fancy in what he's saying. It's very straightforward, to the point, and very clear, even though it sounds a bit harsh. But he's saying, I'm here to tell you that I'm sent to you to tell you, if you don't believe, a punishment is going to befall you. And so one of the things we learn, because one of the things that we have to keep thinking about when we study Seerah is that it is there for us to learn lessons from. Okay, it is there to show us how the Prophet ﷺ did things, because he's the best example, and then we have to follow his example. So this shows that, when you want to convey the message, don't be obscure. Don't try and pad your words. Be clear, be open, be straight. I mean, there's no point of making people think something which is not true. Tell them clearly what the fact is. Okay? So this is one of the things that we learn from this, like Allah says, balagul mubin, say the clear thing. So, so he, when you convey the message in your da'wah, don't leave the listener confused, because sometimes this happens a lot with some of the khutbahs over here. Sometimes, I'll go on a Jummah, and I will listen to the whole khutbah, and I'm trying to think, what is the khatib trying to say? I don't understand. What is the message he's trying to convey? Because some of them, it's a very scattered kind of, the ideas are a bit scattered, and they have, I think, tried to cushion their words so much that at the end, the listener doesn't even know what he's trying to say. I mean, are you trying to talk about the Quran? Are you trying to talk about Yawm al-Qiyamah? It's really confusing. Whereas some khatibs are very clear, I mean, you can hear a khutbah and you know exactly, this khutbah was about dhikr. This khutbah was about the importance of reciting Quran. It's very clear, the message is clear, to the point, direct. That's how your da'wah should be. When you speak to someone, you should be clear. You should get your point across clearly. Don't be fumbling and going here and there, so that the person who's listening, he doesn't even know what you're trying to say. So how are they going to, accept your da'wah anyway? So, now, Abu Lahab, he had left his business and come to listen to this statement, and he's not happy. He's not happy at all, because he could have used this time to earn some money, right? Because he's doing business, right? And he has to leave everything and come here to listen to something like this. Because you see, people think that conversation about dunya is very important. But conversation about akhirah, people think, okay, whatever, So if you stand, and sometimes I've noticed, you're standing and talking to somebody, for example, about the grave or about death or about akhirah or about some of the messengers or something. And some people, they'll come wandering and they'll stand there, and then they'll wander back off, because they think, okay, they're just talking about akhirah or something like that, But if I'm standing and talking about, let's say I'm telling them that I've done this full research about which is the best iron in the world, because I've been burning my clothes recently, you'll see there's like a huge contingency of people who are standing to listen to which is the best iron in the world, because this really affects us, I mean, our dunya is more important than anything else. So unfortunately, the same thing happens, if you invite people to your house and you say, I'm inviting you all for dinner, everybody, mashallah, turns up. But if you say, I've arranged a dars in my house, someone's got a dentist appointment, someone's busy, someone's child is sick, it's like about 4 people will turn up, out of like 20 people that you invited, and you think, okay, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned the dars. So it's just the nature of human being, and this is really something that we should think about and hope that we don't fall into this category, and that we are foremost in trying to learn about the akhirah. That's so much more important than finding out about tiles or toasters or irons or whatever else, which is the best school and which is the best teacher and profession, and I mean, I understand we're living in this dunya and we need to know these things, but don't give it more importance than your akhirah. There's nothing more important than learning about your akhirah. And of course, people who do that, they will have a rude awakening, they will have a rude surprise on the day of Qiyamah, and they won't know what's happened, because they never read about it, they never learned about it. Anyway, so Abu Lahab, the businessman that he is, he says, may evil befall the rest of your day. Is this why you called us? Right? He says, he sort of curses the Prophet ﷺ. And Abu Lahab is not only speaking on his own behalf. A lot of the other people who have gathered, they're all thinking the same thing. They're thinking, what? Is this why he called us? He said, Ya Sabah. We thought some big calamity is about to happen. And this is all he wants to say to us, that we're going to go to hellfire if we don't believe. So, however, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a surah which is a miracle. I mean, a lot of the times I used to recite the surah, right? And I used to think, I wonder what is the greatness of this surah. Tabbat yada abil habim wa tab. And the reason it's a miracle is because it's revealed while Abu Lahab and his wife are still alive. Okay? While they're still alive, Allah says, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. His earnings will not benefit him, and nor anything that he does. Because that's the reason he's getting angry, right? Because he lost some money in coming and listening to him. So Allah is saying, Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. سيصلى نارا ذات لهب وامرأته حمالة الحطب في جيدها حبل من مسد. So around her neck is this rope, right? Now, if Abu Lahab and his wife wanted to prove that the Quran is false, the easiest thing for them to do is to do what? Accept Islam. And then this verse is going to be untrue. But they don't do that. It's like they are destined to disbelieve and to go to the hellfire. So Allah reveals this about them while they're still alive, and it still has no effect on them. And they still, continue. Oh, Jazakallahu Khairan. Thank you. Okay. So, so basically, if you just rush for the dunya and you don't have any deen and you don't have any iman, then this is not going to benefit you. And that was the case with Abu Lahab and his wife. Okay. So we had said that in this dars we would talk about the reaction of the Quraysh. Now, before we go on to the reaction of the Quraysh, I have not even started the actual topic yet. But after the first verse that is revealed, which is Iqra, the next two sets of verses that are revealed are from Muzammil and Muddathir. Ya ayyuhal Muzammil, قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا إن عليك I can't hear any of you. إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا. So there's that verse, and then there is Muddathir. يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر ولا تمنن تستكثر ولربك فاصبر. Okay. There is dispute, and it is not clear which of them come in succession straight after Iqra. But the point is, you have Iqra, and then you have Qum, and then you have Qum. So this is really, you could say, like your steps to da'wah. Okay, this is how you do da'wah. You do Iqra, then you do Qum, and then you do Qum. Now, what are the two Qums? So Iqra is clear. Before you preach and teach and pass the message, what do you have to do? You have to read and learn yourself. You have to get the knowledge yourself. If you don't have knowledge, how can you teach it? So the first step is that you have to gain knowledge. You have to learn. For the Prophet ﷺ, we said, he does not need to learn how to read and write. He's getting it directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Jibreel alayhi salam. That's his tarbiyah, right? That's his learning. For us, we have to learn to read and write, open books, attend durus, listen to talks on YouTube, whatever resources we have at hand. We have to make an effort to learn. That's the first step. The second step is قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ. Okay, which means that stand up and warn. Which means do da'wah. Tell people, convey the message of Islam to people. Tell them, if they believe, they get Jannah. If they disbelieve, they get Nar. Right? Teach, tell, convey the message. Now, when you do da'wah, and when you convey the message, and as well as when you are learning, these two things together, they take a lot out of you. It literally, it drains you. It squeezes every ounce of energy from you. Learning is not an easy process. You have to go through a lot of, stages and steps to learn. Anything that you learn, you would have to, like even in medicine, for example, we would have reference books. For example, if you want to learn about a technique, it's not just enough to read that. You should have reference books, and you should have other books, and you have to know what people tried and failed and why this one worked better, so you understand it better. The same thing with the study of the deen. If you are studying tafsir, for example, don't just study from one book, The more you read, the more books you use, the deeper your knowledge, the more in depth you will understand the subject. So when you do that, and then to go and convey the message, that takes a lot out of a person. To do da'wah, to go and, to deliver the message of Islam. It takes a lot out of you. So you need strength. You need something that is going to hold you together while you're doing this thing which is draining you. قُمِ اللَّيْلَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Tahajjud. Qiyamul Layl. The dhikr of Allah. That is your fuel. That's your petrol. Okay? That is what is going to keep you going. Even if you had all the servants in the world, even if you had, somebody's doing everything for you, unless you follow the system that Allah has given you, you will not feel energetic. You will not feel that you can get up and do anything. You will feel that that's it. You will feel unmotivated, tired, lazy, whatever. So at that time, tahajjud or qiyamul layl was fard on this core group of Muslims, because their circumstances were very different to anybody else's circumstances. And you could say that our deen today stands on the shoulders of those people. If they had not held on to Islam, we wouldn't be Muslim today. So they had to do a very, very important and difficult task, a difficult job. So they needed extra strength, right? So qiyam is fard on them. Like salah is fard on us, qiyam is fard on them. And then later on, when salah is prescribed, the obligation of qiyam is abrogated from the Sahaba, but not from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tahajjud is fard throughout his prophethood. All the way until the end, he had to pray tahajjud. And really, he needed that. He needed that strength. Ibn al-Qayyim, he's one of the prominent students of Ibn Taymiyyah. Have you heard of Ibn Taymiyyah? So, he said Ibn Taymiyyah had this habit. Every morning, he would do his Fajr Salah, and then he would go to the outskirts of Damascus, which is where he used to live. And he would sit there, and he would do his adhkar until the sun rose, and, he would keep sitting there. And so the people, they asked him, they said, why do you do this every single day? You do this every day. He said, this is my breakfast. He said, if I don't have this, if I don't do these adhkar in the morning, and the amount of adhkar that I do, he said, I will not be able to carry on for the rest of the day. And Ibn Taymiyyah is the one I told you. If you see the amount of books he's written and the volumes and volumes, I don't think that in our lifetime we can study them. If I was to say to one of you, I want you to study all the books that Ibn Taymiyyah ever wrote, you would feel I don't have enough years. Can you imagine writing that stuff? If we can't even sit and read it. So this is like, we're talking about an amazing amount of strength that dhikr gives you. Istighfar. If you make istighfar, it gives you so much strength. It's unbelievable. And I know that, you listen to these words and you think, it all sounds very nice, but does it actually happen? Trust me, try it out. It does. It'll keep you going. It'll give you strength that you won't understand where you got the strength from. Why do you think the Prophet ﷺ tells his daughter, you don't need a servant, just do this dhikr? Dhikr is amazing. Okay, so this is what they're commanded to do. Iqra, qum, stand and do dawah, and to support that dawah and that knowledge, qiyam, or some kind of something to strengthen your iman. Because you need, for example, if I have this bottle of water and I just drink it, and I just keep drinking it and drinking and drinking, what's going to happen? It's going to finish, right? I'm going to have an empty bottle. Then I can't drink anymore or give anybody any water to drink. So while I'm drinking it, I also need to keep refilling the bottle. And that's what you're basically doing. When you do dawah, you are giving to the people. You need to get it back as well, right? So that's the 3 basic principles of dawah. Pause for adhan. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So now we're going to actually start what I wanted to talk about today, which is the reaction of the Quraysh when the Prophet ﷺ starts preaching. So the first command was Iqra, and then it was, preach to the Ashiratak al-Aqrabin. Now the next phase is this, where Allah says, Qum fa'anzir. So now he has to take the da'wah public. Right now he has to stand and warn everybody. When he starts doing that, the Quraysh respond in different ways, and this happens through a period of time, and it happens in stages. But I will just try and present it to you sort of like, in sort of like one set. And then we might come back to it throughout Seerah as we talk about it. So there are 11 things, basically, 11 reactions that they have to the Prophet ﷺ's preaching. Number 1, mockery. Number 2, insulting and harming the Prophet ﷺ. Number 3, accusations or character assassination. Number 4, defaming or deforming the message, changing the actual message. Number 5, bargaining or negotiating with the Prophet ﷺ. Number 6, temptations. 7, setting challenges. 8, putting the Prophet ﷺ under pressure. 9, jealousy and hatred. 10, persecution. And 11, the final thing, which is assassination attempts. Because nothing is working and they're just frustrated and they think, just kill the man and finish it. Sorry? So I'm going to go through each of them one by one slowly, okay? The first thing is, this is what they do. وَإِذَا رَأَوْكَ إِن يَتَّخِذُونَكَ إِلَّا هُزُوًا أَهَذَا الَّذِي بَعَثَ اللَّهُ رَسُولًا. And when they see you, O Muhammad, they take you not except in ridicule, saying, is this the one whom Allah has sent as a messenger? They just laugh at him, They ridicule him, they mock him, they say, oh, couldn't Allah find anyone else, Is this the man who is Allah's messenger? You see, this is one of the signs when someone has recognized the truth, but they are too arrogant to admit it. So the best thing they can do is they can just laugh at someone. So when somebody laughs at you, that is one of the signs, not that they hate you and they don't believe you, but that is a sign that they are so frustrated that they know you are right and they can't do anything about it, so they just laugh at you. Like you'll see this happens a lot in schools, for example, You'll see one group of girls, they'll say, let's say a new girl comes, and let's say, for example, she's very pretty, she's very intelligent. So everybody's annoyed, because their title has gone now of being the most, getting the highest marks or looking the prettiest in class or something. So they start making fun of her. And she goes home crying, thinking that I'm ugly and everybody. But the reason they're making fun of her is because she is in reality very beautiful, or she is very intelligent and she is getting the highest marks, and they can't stand it. So the easiest thing to do is just laugh at her and make her feel upset. So mockery and humiliating someone is really a reflection of you and of who you are. It doesn't really show something bad in the other person, but it shows the bad inside you. So they would make fun of him, and he, in terms of nobility and character, he was outstanding amongst the Quraysh, the Prophet ﷺ. But he was not wealthy. He did not have wealth, and he did not have power. So they're thinking that, what is this, this guy who doesn't have any money, he's not like one of the leaders of the Quraysh. He's become a messenger, So for them, and also he's younger than many of his counterparts, a lot of the Quraysh leaders. Because remember, when you become a messenger, you're almost saying now that I'm the leader of all the Muslims. So people who are already in leadership position, they're thinking, excuse me, but who gave you permission to come and take the title of leader? Who made you a leader? So this is all that's going on inside, right? So it's coming out in the form of mockery, and they're saying, oh, he doesn't have any wealth. And if you look also in the past, in the story of Talut and Jalut, they go to the Bani Israel, they go to their prophet and they say, we want to do jihad. So give us someone who will do jihad with us. And who does the prophet appoint? He appoints Talut. They say, no, this is not going to do. Lam yu'ta sa'atam min al-mal, right? They say he doesn't have any wealth, he doesn't have any position. Who is he? How are we going to do jihad with him? But in the end, he is the one who, defeats and, brings them victory. But I'm just saying in general, people, they associate victory and success with power and wealth, whereas that's not always true. In fact, it's far from the truth. Sometimes success lies in completely the opposite direction of wealth and power, right? People who have wealth and power, they're so blinded by that. They don't have the time or energy for anything useful or sensible. Whether it's the people who have humble beginnings who really bring success and victory. Okay. The second thing they did is they would insult and harm the Prophet ﷺ. Now remember, some people are thick-skinned, and they will just take it on the chin and it won't really bother them. But the Anbiya of Allah, they have soft hearts. They are sensitive people. They are not harsh by nature. And so when people insult them and mock them and hurt them, it really affects them. It really upsets them. So they carry on doing what Allah has told them to do, but it's very painful and difficult for them. So, I just need you to understand that when people are doing this to the Prophet ﷺ, it does upset him, it hurts him, but he carries on. So one of the things they do is, a lot of this, by the way, goes on around the Kaaba. The stories I'm going to tell you now. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he would come and pray in the open. He would come and pray in front of the Kaaba. He would not hide and pray. So every time he would come out, it would give them a chance. And the leaders of the Quraysh used to be usually sitting around the Kaaba. So once Abu Jahl, he comes to some of the leaders of the Quraysh who are sitting next to the Kaaba, and he says to them, are you allowing Muhammad to rub his face in the dirt? He's referring to his sajda as rubbing his face in the dirt. If I see him do that, I will trample over his neck and I will rub his face in the dirt. The Prophet ﷺ had come to pray, and so he continued to pray. And Abu Jahl goes towards him to fulfill his threat, right? Because he said that I'm going to trample him if he does this. So the Prophet ﷺ continues to do sujood, continues to pray, and Abu Jahl goes to, trample him or beat him up. So as he walked to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ was in sujood. The Quraysh leaders are sitting at a bit of a distance near the Kaaba, and they see Abu Jahl. He goes near the Prophet ﷺ, and as he's approaching him, he suddenly starts waving his arms up in the air, and he moves back, and I think he falls down. Does he fall down? Yeah, he falls down. And then he gets up and he comes back to the Quraysh, right? And they asked him, they said, what happened? You went to trample his head and all that, and you've come back, what happened? He says, what do you mean what happened? He said, didn't you see what happened? They said, no, we just saw that you went near him and then you just fell down and you came back. He said, no. He said, I went near him and he said there was a trench which was flaming with fire and smoke and heat. And he said, if I had got any closer, it would have burnt me. He said, that's why I suddenly, I got startled and I moved back and I fell down. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, those were the angels. If he would have come any closer to me, they would have torn him into pieces. So now he's a Nabi of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's protection is with him, because he has to deliver the message, right? So no harm can come to him. Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt one day came to the Prophet ﷺ, and again he was next to the Kaaba, and he grabbed his clothes and he started wrapping them around the neck of the Prophet ﷺ and trying to strangle him and choke him. Abu Bakr steps in and he pushes Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt away, and he said, do you want to kill a man just because he says, my Lord is Allah? Because if you think about it, what else is he doing? He's not telling you to leave your wealth. He's not telling you to do anything that is impossible. He's just saying, believe in one God. He's just saying, believe in Allah and leave the idols. He's not asking you for your wealth. He's not asking you for money. What else is he doing? He's not asking you for power. All he's saying is, believe in one God. So this is what Abu Bakr says to him. He said, will you kill a man just because he says, my Lord is Allah? Another incident narrated by Bukhari is that the Prophet ﷺ was praying next to the Kaaba, and Abu Jahl came. Abu Jahl, he just had it for him, right? And he comes to the leader of the Quraysh, who are also sitting next to the Kaaba. And he says, so-and-so has slaughtered a camel. Who will go and pick up the contents of the abdomen of the camel and dump it on Muhammad during Salah? And the most evil among them, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, he accepts the challenge. He goes, he grabs the intestines and all the filth of the camel, and he waits near the Prophet ﷺ until he's in sujood. And when he goes in sujood, he throws all this dirt on the back of the Prophet ﷺ. And when he does that, Fatima radiallahu anha, she sees that and she is very disturbed and upset. And they did a study in Palestine, and they said that children who see their parents being kicked and beaten and tortured, it has lasting damage on their mental states. Even when they grow up, they are very, very disturbed. It's traumatizing for them to see someone doing something to their parent. And so she gets very, very upset, and she goes and I think she's crying, and she removes all this filth from the back of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he finishes his salah, he continues calmly praying his salah. He finishes his salah and he stands up, and publicly in front of the Quraysh, he makes a dua. And he is not known to have made duas like this very often, because remember we said he was rahmatullahi lil alameen. There's only one person that he actually even killed, and he wanted more and more people to come to Islam. He didn't want people to go away from Islam. So he stands up and he makes this dua. He says, "O Allah, punish Abu Jahl, Utbah bin Rabi'ah, Shayba bin Rabi'ah, Al-Walid bin Utbah, Umayyah bin Khalaf, and Utbah bin Abi Mu'ayt." And it is said he made dua against 7 people, but Ibn Mas'ud, who is the narrator of this hadith, he said, I forgot the 7th one. But he said, Abdullah bin Mas'ud said, I have seen with my own eyes all of these men were killed in the Battle of Badr. And that was the fulfillment of his dua. And you would think that they were just killed in the battle. What's the big deal? What do you think is the big deal? Yeah, but so what does that make them? They died as disbelievers. That's the biggest musibah anybody can have. It's bigger than beating them up, mutilating their body, cutting their ears and toes and nose. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you die on kufr. That's it. That means your fate is sealed. That is the worst thing that can happen to you. That means for eternity you will burn in hell. And that is one of the worries that, for example, especially people who come to Islam, they worry about their families. Because everybody wants to be with their family in Jannah, right? I mean, we all want to see our parents there. We want to see our brothers and sisters there. We want to see our uncles and aunties in Jannah, right? Nobody wants that this is the only time I will see them, and after this they will go to the hellfire. So this is the biggest, worst thing that can happen to anyone, is to die upon kufr. And the Prophet ﷺ's dua was accepted. They were punished like this. They all died on kufr. By the way, did you notice that from all the reactions that we talked about, when they're accusing him and they're saying things like that to him, they never accused him of being a pedophile or marrying a very young girl or anything like that. Because this was their urf. This was their custom. This was their tradition. This was normal for them. It's almost like, for example, if you go to a non-Muslim country, you will see that the young children in their house, they are sexually active, they get drunk, they do drugs, they do it with their parents. And to you, you're like shocked. You think, I remember when I was in college, one of my friends, she said, oh yeah, I was discussing contraception with my mom. And I looked at her, I said, what? I said, you spoke to your mom about that? And she said, yeah. She was English, she was non-Muslim. But I'm just saying that for them, this is normal. But when we hear it, we think, what did you just say? You speak to your parents about things like this, right? So it just depends, custom to custom. Like, for example, I remember on one of these Oprah Winfrey shows, she's interviewing one of these Indian actresses. And maybe. And she says that, what do you people, she says that, when do you leave your home? And she says, we never leave our home. She says, we get married and we live with our families. And she says, what? She says, you don't live on your own? She says, no, we don't. And then she asks her a few more questions and she is shocked. You can see the shock.
We don't need to take an appointment with our parents to meet them.
Yeah.
Because this one became so viral about the Indian, our culture, that we don't separate from parents.
Yes, because with non-Muslims, right? I have seen them with my own eyes. It's very sad and disturbing, but they live very lonely lives because their children leave and they never come back. Even on Christmas and New Year, they don't come back, Some of them are really, really isolated. But they find it very strange that our families are stuck to us for the rest of our life. They can't understand that concept. It's like really alien to them. So similarly, we might hear that he marries a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old and we think, astaghfirullah, why did he do that? How are we going to explain this to the people? But Roman, who was the mother of Aisha radiallahu anha, she was married at the age of, I think, 8 or 9. Aisha radiallahu anha, when the Prophet ﷺ proposes to her, Abu Bakr says, wait, somebody has already proposed to her. So first I need to see if he's still interested in her, and then I will come back to you. This was normal. So this was not something that they could attack him for. Like, today he's attacked for one of these things, right? But at that time, this is what everybody did. Everybody got married around this age. So this was adi, like they say over here. It was like, oh, yeah, this is normal for them. 6. So, okay. Character assassination. So they say a number of things to him, right? They say, innaka la majnoon. They say, sahirun majnoon. They say, they either say he's a magician, kadhab, he's a liar, he's a soothsayer, he is mad. They say, you see, the thing is that they are really confused and thrown off about what has happened. They can't find an explanation for it. So we continue later on, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.